I hadn't really thought about how silence and movement correlate with one another, but I spend a lot of time in a semi silence. Like, I do not like absolute silence because then I can start hearing the creaks in the walls. I can hear my neighbors getting it on through paper thin walls. So, I have a box fan that runs 24 hours a day in my house, but I also have a nasty problem with insomnia to the point where I spend probably 3 to 5 hours a night just rolling in my bed, having events that wake me up from sleep apnea to nightmares to all kinds of things that keep me up at night. And so I do get to spend a lot of time alone and in a semi silence. And like this comment said, it is sometimes during those times when I wake up in the middle of the night where I start really thinking about things. And a lot of the ideas for my videos come from late at night where I get up, I write something down, and then I lay back down and try to go to sleep for another 20 minutes and then wake up again. But silence is something that we aren't used to. And the last time that I really appreciated silence, I didn't even know what I was appreciating. I was in Flagstaff at the hiking trail, and I was waiting for the person I was with to come out of the bathroom, and suddenly I was on the trail. There was no one else around, and all I could hear was just the wind coming through the trees. And it was a surreal moment because up until that point, I hadn't really been in the wilderness out there. And it was such a feeling, but I couldn't appreciate it at the time because I wasn't thinking about it. It was just something that was happening to me. And now that I think back at it, I should have enjoyed it more, but I didn't know what I was enjoying. So, with that said, let me get into my quick monologue. We live in a world that hates silence. It fills it fills every second with noise, distractions, and endless scrolling. But what if I told you that very thing you're avoiding is the key to unlocking your best ideas? Creativity doesn't happen when you're overstimulated. It happens in the quiet moments when your brain finally has space to wander, connect dots, and think. So turn everything off, step away, and just move. Because the ideas you're chasing, they're waiting for you in the silence. That's the introduction. So, moving on, we're only going to have two talking points today because this is either going to be a Monday video or a morning video. So, I'm not sure when you guys are going to see this up. Oh my gosh, it says it's going to rain today or tomorrow or Friday. I mean, I live in Arizona, so anytime it rains, it's like we went 5 months this year with no rain. So, anytime I see the little icon on the bottom that says it's going to rain, you're just like your eyes just widen. Anyhow, let's get on to our first talking point. Silence isn't empty. Most people avoid silence because it feels uncomfortable, but that discomfort is where creativity begins. We live in a world where it is very difficult to find silence. Even at work, when I just want to sit still and just listen to the air conditioning, Gen Z is doing something that's annoying. Gen Z is the perfect example of a generation that can't enjoy silence. No matter what time of day, and this goes for all of my Gen Z workers, they have to be doing something. He's either reading a book, podcast, playing video games, or sleeping in his car. I'm not sure why he's taken to sleeping in his car on his breaks, but hey, to each their own. But I can understand the discomfort that comes with silence because to me, when I think of silence, I think of lying in my own grave. The ultimate silence, right? Where your time has passed, you're in your retirement phase of your life, and that's it. And I think that's why we avoid silence is it has very negative connotations, but it shouldn't. But corporations also know that we're very susceptible to boredom. Every person that I know of doesn't like being bored. They have to be doing something. They have to be doing something that's not very productive, but they do it anyway because uh, in the article that this thing created, or excuse me, in the script that this chat GPT wrote, it was talking about how we need to stop overstimulating our brains. Because at the end of the day, we're all still animals, right? Can you imagine walking through a forest and seeing the animals with headphones on because they're bored? They don't even understand what boredom is. Animals function very simply, the same way that humans should be. Animals are either in survival mode because they're looking for one of two things: food or getting it on with Susie Rottencrotch behind the Taco Bell. Those are the only two functions that should ever come into human beings, but instead, we're consciously aware that we're alive. And that's not something we share with any other animal. That's why animals aren't overstimulated by music, podcasts, and the hub. Because when animals want to get it on, they don't ask, they don't court, they don't do anything. When a buck feels like it's time, it's time. We as human beings are so oppressed in everything we do. And not just getting it on, but financially, we're stressed out. We're stressed out by where we live. We're stressed out by depression. We have so many negative things going on inside of our brains all the time. We're always comparing ourselves to others. We look at ourselves in the mirror and we don't like the way we look. We don't like being judged by others. And at the end of the day, when we come home and we sit down by ourselves in our tiny little homes, if you're lucky enough to have that, it's not a good feeling. And so rather than sitting here in silence, you will sit here with as many stimulants as you can while you have a little stimulant in your cup. And that by that I mean Irishing up your coffee this early in the morning is just what human beings do. I guess it just being overstimulated means that we focus less on the negative stimulators, which is depression, anxiety, and panic attacks, like I do. Every day that I wake up, there's one thing on my mind, and that's losing my job or not having enough money to pay my bills. Those two things in our society are a poison. They're the toxic goo of the workplace because your boss knows you don't make enough money to live. And guess what? He doesn't care. Your coworkers know you don't make enough money to live because they're making the same amount. It seems like we're constantly stimulated to find a new way of surviving, which isn't good. Even late at night, when you're laying in your bed and you wake up because you thought about another bill you can't afford to pay, you're still thinking about it and finding ways to not think about it. Talking point number 2: boredom is a creative superpower. Not sure if I fully agree with that, but we're trained to believe that boredom is bad. But it's actually a mental reset button. The brain thrives on unstimulated moments. This is when it subconsciously processes ideas. Like I said, boredom to ordinary people is something to be avoided at all cost. I went through a 12-year period where I played Call of Duty every single day for hours, 8 to 12 hours every day, because it was just such a bad time in my life and I didn't know how else to cope with it. As long as I was thinking about the video game, I didn't have to think about anything else. And many of us function in this manner, whether it's Netflix, it's YouTube, it's TV, for those of you who watch TV, it's even other people. These I don't even know what to call them. The noise that comes out between the NPCs when they talk to one another. Like yesterday, I spent all day with one of my coworkers at the North Phoenix office. We spent the whole day. But I'll tell you this. Not one sentence that was spoken yesterday was anything but plain noise. Like it was just blah, 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 blah. 8 hours passed of blah, blah, blah. Not one meaningful word in 8 hours. Now you multiply that by every person that you know and every interaction that you've had in your life, where nearly all conversation is meaningless. The only time that nonverbal communication is taking place is when you're giving it to Susie, and Susie's making all kinds of strange noises because Susie's enjoying the 15 seconds of love that she's going to get that day from you. Not just you. Remember, all the Johnny Six Packs are lined up around the corner for their chance to mount Susie. That's it. Our life isn't full of stimulating ideas. And I think that's one of the main reasons why we haven't changed the society that we live in. None of us are saying anything meaningful. It's just like blah, 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 blah. I accept the way that things are. And corporations absolutely love it that people don't talk. Because if people really talk to one another and shared how they feel about the world around them, the corporations would be in very big trouble very quickly. Because the second that people start pointing to their oppressor, to the exploiter, to the person that doesn't think they're people, because they see them as dumb, that's when things start to change. Because when people focus, that's when things get done. Right now, as a society, we are unfocused. We are so scared. We are so easily scared as a species. And I think that's one of the main reasons why we don't do anything positive. If the human race wanted to change their circumstances, all they would need to do is focus their attention on the positive changes that we need. Universal basic rent, universal basic health care, universal basic income, and going after the people, your oppressors. Because those people don't care. They thrive in a society where people are unconnected and there's no logical or intelligent thought happening among the proletariat. It's a great way of keeping the chains on the proletariat, is the proletariat wants to ignore the circumstances of their confinement. And believe me, where I live right now, where I work currently, it is the ultimate confinement. We are all prisoners of this system. And until the prisoners start looking around and really feeling those bars and how oppressive they are and how terrible you feel every single day because you're not being heard, you're not having anything meaningful happen to you. The only thing that happens in my life is I go to my work release program, I come home, throw back more than I should of the beverages, and that's it. That's the end of my life. Every night, once I finally succumb to the substance, that's the end. In a very, you know, dramatic way, I come to my early death every single night as I black out my bed and lay down and wait for work to start again. All right, that's how I'm going to end the video. I hope you guys are having a great day. Remember, subscribe, donate, leave a like, but mostly, remember, these comments that you guys leave are almost the foundation of this channel at this point, because I'm getting close to making 500 videos in 4 months. I make a lot of content. My channel is set to reach, I believe, 1 million views in 4 months. That's a lot of people that listen to Millennial Steam. And a lot of people that keep coming back for some reason.